Other news now, emotional Ipswich councillors have slammed the Queensland Government that's likely to pass new laws today which will see the council sacked. The legislation will dissolve the existing council after 15 people were charged in a Crime and Corruption Commission investigation. Reporter Allyson joins us from State Parliament in Brisbane. Allyson, how certain is it that this legislation will be passed?
Well, it's pretty much a done deal, Ros. The legislation has been introduced into Parliament this morning. It is currently being debated and we expect it will be passed by 6 o'clock this afternoon. What that will mean is that effectively the Ipswich City Council just near Brisbane will be sacked. This is an unprecedented move. These laws are new special powers giving the local government minister these unprecedented powers to effectively sack the council. Once it is passed through Parliament this afternoon, it will need to be signed off on by the Queensland Governor and then it will be a done deal. So at the moment there is discussion between the opposition and the government on both sides of the House. We do know, however, that the opposition is supporting this legislation. There is, however, some contention about why it has taken so long for this legislation to be introduced, given an investigation into the Ipswich Council has been ongoing for several months now, as you mentioned. 15 people, including 2 former mayors, have been arrested in association with the council. They're facing 86 charges, including on fraud, corruption and extortion. So some pretty serious allegations there, and this isn't something that's been talked about in just a very new time frame. This is something that has been investigated for several months now. So, as I said, both sides of Parliament, this is a bipartisan support for this legislation, but there is discussion in the House at the moment as to why it has taken exactly so long for the government to bring this legislation forth.
And Allyson, if the whole council is sacked, what happens then?
So it is pretty inevitable that the council actually will be sacked. We expect by perhaps 9 o'clock tomorrow morning that ruling will be official and then an administrator will be appointed. We expect that will be somebody who has close government ties, perhaps even someone from within government departments, and they will have about 4 or 5 people working underneath them to carry out the day-to-day functions of the council. And they in fact could be in place up to 2020, and that is when the Ipswich Council general elections were due to be held again. So for quite a few years it's expected an administrator will be held, and this goes back to what has been described as a toxic culture behind the Ipswich Council, which the CCC, the Crime and Corruption Commission here in Queensland, alleges dates back decades. So allegations of corruption, that developers have been providing gifts in exchange for favourable treatment, that staff have been bullied into keeping alleged behaviour secret because they have feared for their jobs. So the thinking behind this legislation is that there really does need to be a complete change of not only leadership at the council but perhaps culture as well, and that's why this time frame has been set to allow sufficient time for the administrators to go in and to look through the books, for these criminal charges to be played out in the court system, and then for a whole new round of councillors to be selected in the 2020 elections.
Thanks, Allyson.